All right, everybody, welcome to this recording of Psychology Ninja Tricks for your sales funnel and SEO. I am, of course, Sean, the SEO geek, and this is a recording of a live session that was done on a Tuesday evening in Philadelphia that got rave reviews from those that were in attendance. So it seemed like this was a pretty important topic to just let sit in the background. So we wanted to make sure that we got a good live version of it. Well, a good recorded live version of it. I'm, of course, doing this live via webinar format, but just recording it so that it can live on in prosperity, whatever that word is, for all eternity, and everyone can get some good use out of it. So it's going to be a little bit different with this one versus the live one. There's obviously not necessarily any kind of live engagement Q&A, answering questions on the spot, going through specific cases. However, this should get you a good start in introducing psychology into your sales funnel and SEO process. So I wanted to begin with a simple question. What if all countries have ninjas, but Japan's are the worst? Obviously, if ninjas were any good, namely Japan's, we wouldn't know they exist, right? Think about that. Think about that to ponder. So what if all countries have ninjas, but Japan's are the worst? Now, I kind of did that as a setup. And I introduced a persuasion technique that we're going to get to in a little bit. Did you even notice? Did you notice I introduced a persuasion technique? How about that time? I just used it again. You may or may not have even noticed. So in those previous slides, I introduced a technique known to the world's world-class persuaders, and you may have missed it. And that just goes to show that it is, in fact, a good persuasion technique. You don't feel like you're being forced down some kind of direction. It's purely something that happens in the background. But we're going to get to that in a second. So you may be asking yourself, who is this guy with this silky smooth voice? Well, I'm Sean, the SEO geek. I've been at the SEO game, SEO geekery, if you will, for the past 12 years. And the past 5 years, I've become a bit of a specialist in the world of e-commerce SEO. It has its own level of unique technical challenges, but I've seen it all in the world of SEO, whether it be e-commerce, whether it be lead generation style SEO. I've been through it all. I've helped it all. I've seen it all. I've tried a lot of different things, and what I'm about to share is kind of an SEO secret weapon. So if you want to connect, want to ask questions, you can find me on any of these mediums that are on the screen here. The most active place that I am is on Facebook. So if you follow me there, I'm posting there regularly, and you can ask questions there directly to me. You can also find me on Instagram. My website's there. I blog every now and then also my Twitter account, which is fairly inactive, admittedly. But anyway, moving on. Here's what we're going to cover today. Basically, we're going to cover the easiest way that I know to persuade a visitor. And then we're also going to talk about how to write content that converts and ranks like a boss. So we're talking about content, of course, but we want to make sure that that content convinces people to take action in an ethical way. And then we're going to talk about technical persuasion and other conversion tactics. So moving on to first, what I call the knockout persuasion method. This is the technique that I was hinting at in the beginning. And really what the basic principle is based off of is some basic NLP. NLP is short for neuro-linguistic programming. And neuro-linguistic programming is basically the science of persuasion. And the best way, if you've ever read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, you may know that the best method of persuasion is to have somebody believe that it is their idea. So if I'm just barking at you, try this, try this, try this, try this, do this, do this, do this, you're going to instantly put your guard up. However, if I can convince you that something is the solution to your problem and you come to that conclusion on your own, you've now been persuaded. So just think of that from those two different lenses. The easiest way that I know how to do this is to begin a message with a question, and preferably one that has an implied yes. And the reason for that is because that we, as a species, love the word yes. It's been scientifically proven that when you use the word yes, it releases dopamine in your brain. And of course, dopamine is the brain's happy juice. You start feeling more positive, more open to new ideas. And the word yes, even if you just say it to yourself, if you're just reading something and you say the word yes to yourself, you are more likely to be in a happier position. So if somebody is going through your content and the word yes is in their mind and it's the first interaction that they have with you is the word yes, that is going to get the brain firing in a more positive light. So if somebody is getting to your website with the word yes already in their mind, it's going to be pretty powerful, right? They're going to be coming to you with a pretty pre-sold message already in their mind. So that's a pretty powerful thing there, right? Did you catch I just did that there again? Of course, I'm just joking around, of course. But the area that I apply this to is typically within the meta description. And if you're new to the terminology related to SEO, the meta description is the area that you see on Google. It's typically about 2 sentences, but it's right under the link on Google. You apply the meta description so that you can somewhat describe what the link is about that somebody is about to click on. And this is where you start to introduce what your site is about. So if you begin your meta description with a question that has an implied yes as the answer, you start to get the brain firing on this cylinder of the dopamine going through their brain with that implied yes. So think about this as the example. Are you looking for blue widgets? Widget Emporium has been providing the best widgets online since 2001. Shop today. So if you've ever been on any of my trainings in the past, you know that Widget Emporium is your source for all things widgets. And that's the example that I always give. It's just a good generic example. So breaking this down a little bit, looking at this same meta description, are you looking for blue widgets? There's an implied yes to that. And we know that that person is looking for that, just kind of as a little bit of an SEO strategery going on here. If somebody is looking for blue widgets and we've properly optimized this page for the term blue widgets, we have a pretty safe assumption that they're looking for blue widgets or at least something close by to it, so that we know that right out of the gate that this question is yes. Especially, and if it's very relevant, then that's obviously going to be a pretty powerful state for somebody to come in. So now we've opened somebody's brain up with all this dopamine, and they are starting to feel very positive. So then we move into this value statement. Widget Emporium has been providing the best widgets online since 2001. So now you're getting into the territory of, okay, there's something unique about us here. And if you've been in business since 2001, that's great. That's a long time to be online in the online business. That's great. But if you have the world's largest selection, mention that. If you have the world's most unique selection, the hard to find things, the things that nobody else carries, you can include all of that. And those are going to be all good things for you to include in your messaging, so that somebody previously looked at your messaging with the implied yes. Now they're seeing that there's some kind of value. So you essentially open them up to accept new information positively, and now they see something that's incredibly valuable. And then you finish off with a call to action. Easy breezy, beautiful call to action. So shop today implies that Okay, you have this yes question in mind. You know that we have what you're looking for. Here's why we're a little bit different. Now you can get somebody to click through to your website. So that's the basic psychology of how I applied some basic SEO elements to this. So you may be asking yourself, cool, we got them to click through to our site. They've landed on our site. How do we get them to convert once they land there? Now, I want you to sit back and think to yourself, do you believe that content is the most valuable ranking signal? Keep in mind that Google cannot return any results to anybody if it doesn't know what the heck a site is about. So if content is going to be that window to Google of what a site is about, content is going to be pretty important, right? Now, I want to share a kind of funny, pseudo-funny anecdotal observation. There's a lot of Shopify gurus that in the world of drop shipping and all that claim SEO is dead. Don't do SEO on Shopify. SEO doesn't work on Shopify, but they've never used it. They have sites that have absolutely no content, just completely blank pages with nothing on them but products, and they're running Facebook ads to them, and that's all well and good if that's your strategy. But if you've never used SEO, you can't necessarily knock it as a strategy. It's kind of like if you were saying that you don't like cheesesteaks, but you're vegan. It kind of defeats the purpose, and you really kind of don't have the authority to say that. Anyway, content, having said all of that, content is beyond just writing words on a page. So there's all kinds of studies that show, well, content should be between 300 and 1,500 words. It should be this. It should include this. It should be this and that. Content that converts is more than just having a certain volume of pages on your site. Content that converts is actually made up of three elements. Excuse me. Content that converts is actually composed of these three elements. First is relevant to the search itself, so the thing being physically punched in on Google. Then is relevance to the searcher, so the person performing the search. And then third is relevance to the problem of the searcher. So these are three different things that are taking place, and we're going to go through each of them individually. So first, creating relevance to the search. We actually go old school with this. LSI is an old school SEO tactic that was used between 2008 2010 is probably when it was most popular, and it's short for latent semantic indexing. So latent semantic indexing is more a reference to optimizing for a theme as opposed to a specific keyword. So if you think about optimizing a page for one word or one phrase, you just include it. This is the wrong way of the old school way of doing this. But if you were to optimize one page for one word, basically what it would be is you would just include that word 1 or 2 times per 100 words, and that's going to get you X% keyword density. But what LSI does is it gets you optimized for a whole theme as opposed to just one word. Now, like most sci-fi movies, the original LSI conversations were way ahead of their time. So Google now optimizes for a theme as opposed to keywords. And that actually opens up a whole world of opportunities. A lot of people think that, okay, this is just a crazy level of complexity. However, it actually opens the door up for us. So the example that I always love to give is chocolate cake. So if we were talking about the old school days of SEO, what we would do is we would optimize a page just using the word, or phrase, chocolate cake over and over and over again. But if we wanted to talk about chocolate cake from the perspective of LSI, we would want to look at it from the lens of, okay, what are some other things that we can talk about when we're talking about chocolate cake? We can talk about frosting, talk about birthdays, talk about sugar, talk about sweetness. talk about weddings, talk about all these different kinds of things and tell that whole story. That is going to open up the door for us to have a more engaged conversation with Google. So now that Google has a much fuller um, scope of what we're actually talking about, now they can answer more questions for people, because the reality is that people aren't just searching for really quick terms. So people aren't searching for chocolate cake, they're searching for chocolate cake for 30th birthday party, chocolate cake for wedding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're telling the story of how chocolate cake can be used for any birthday party, now you have that opportunity to be there for those terms. So thinking about which optimization technique is better, which story is going to be better? Is it going to be somebody that just says chocolate cake over and over again, or one that includes all those terms? It's pretty obvious, right? So as we're creating relevance to the searcher, this is going to be partially by using all those terms, but what you want to make sure that you're doing is you're using terminology that's familiar to your customer. So if you are, the example that I gave in the live presentation of this is an attorney. So attorneys are obviously very smart folks. They're very smart people. They use textbook terms, very college educated terms, but the person that they're trying to appeal to a lot of times isn't in that realm. So where an attorney may be saying something along the lines of product liability, somebody that's doing some kind of search for that isn't going to search for, oh, I need a product liability attorney. They're going to say, I bought XYZ and got hurt. So you got to think about the relevance to your searcher from that perspective. And then the other side of it is that you're going to want to make sure that you're using the same language and slang. So if, again, just talking about it on the same intellectual level is going to take you up a level. And you just, if you want to make sure that you're connecting with them, you also want to make sure that you're just basically using the same level of language. So this is borrowed from an old persuasion tactic called mirroring. So if you watch any master salesperson, they will do this. If they can see that their prospect is high energy, high, moving around, lots of movement going on, they're also going to have lots of energy, high level movement going on. But if the person is a little bit more subdued, a little bit more relaxed, you're going to talk to them in a way that's going to mirror what they do. And that itself is a persuasion tactic. It's another way of getting on the same level as a person. So you can use the same words and language, but you can also mirror their energy levels and everything as well. So that's basically how mirroring works as a persuasion tactic. So when we're creating relevance to the problem of the searcher, this is where we start to move beyond sales tactics. So if we're using what I refer to as BMS tactics, which is short for buy my shit tactics, that basically acts as a repellent. How often do you want somebody in your face selling you something? Well, if somebody lands on your website and they see buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this, you're having the same exact effect as if you were in somebody's face screaming for them to buy something from you. But if you showcase how happy your previous customers are, you can then help the person that's viewing your content get in the shoes of somebody who has this problem solved. And excuse me, you can put yourself in the shoes. You can help your you can help your new visitors get in the shoes of previous customers, and you can help them see themselves solving that problem. Sorry about that momentary silence there. Had a little bit of a coughing fit. But anyway, so now we've got all this traffic and people are digging what they're seeing. So how can we make sure that we're ready? Sorry about that. Hopefully I'm back for good this time. So how can we make sure that we're ready to sell on the technical side? This is meant to be a technical presentation. So how can we make sure that if we have the relevant people, we're speaking to them from the perspective of they're basically a good fit for whatever it is that we're selling? How can we make sure that we're not going to basically prevent them from making the decision happen? So basically what we want to make sure is that we make the decision-making process as easy as possible. Now, according to Google, for every second of delay you create in your customer's buying path, you actually take 20% off your conversion rate. So this could mean that if your website is slow, that's going to slow somebody down from making a purchase decision, making a conversion decision. If your website has too many things that you got to click through, that is going to create a problem. And so what I would encourage everybody to do is take a step back and think about how can you eliminate the conversion dissonance? Is your load time too slow? Do you have too complex of a shopping cart? Do you have too many options to click? You know, there's a lot of good examples of how when you give somebody too many options, they don't make a decision at all. So this is actually something very good to observe. Now, one client of mine, I helped him change it or move his load time from 5 seconds to 3 seconds. And it actually improved his conversion rate from 1% to 4%. And this was before we even got him more rankings and traffic. So just one quick change that improved his load time helped improve the conversion rate. Absolutely powerful. So one thing I do want to mention, and I hope that this is done already, is to make sure that you're using HTTPS no matter what. You want to make sure that you have the secure hosting in place. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow somebody to feel secure right out of the gate. So if somebody is weary about their privacy, Facebook has done a number on people who are now very nervous about what's being done with their privacy. So if somebody sees that a site isn't secure, that's going to be a red flag, and it's going to prevent people from making a lot of decisions. And finally, what I recommend is to use Google Analytics to identify the stages of your funnel and plug the gaps. So if you use the user behavior function, you'll actually physically see how people are moving through your site, and you can identify that if somebody is falling off, where can we get them back into the system? So it's a great way of basically plugging those gaps. So if you have any questions, you can send them over to my contact info. It was great sharing this information with everybody. If anybody has any questions, of course, feel free to shoot them over. Looking forward to seeing everyone again another time. Till then, take care.